Closing costs 101. It's Mike Novak from the Novak Real Estate Team. I want to give you an overview of what to expect on closing costs. A lot of people have heard this term closing costs, but they often don't know what this actually means at a deep granular level. So let me unpack it for you today. I'll throw up on the screen kind of a graphic that breaks this down that we kind of share with our clients when we meet with them in person. But first of all is seller paid closing costs. I'm going to go through the seller side first with you. The seller pays excise tax. It's like a sales tax on real estate. It's between 1.28% and it can even go into the 2% range depending on the price point of the house. That's just a tax on the sale amount, and the seller is responsible for paying that. That is different from capital gains tax. It's a tax to the state of Washington. So just know about that, and it adds up to a significant amount of money when you go to sell. So plan accordingly if you're selling. They also pay all real estate commissions. The seller is responsible for paying both the buyer agent and the listing agent. So the buyer agent doesn't cost you anything when you're buying. You just get represented and the seller pays for that fee. That's just part of selling a house in Washington State, which is pretty cool. The seller will also pay 1/2 of the escrow fee. An escrow company is like a neutral third party that moves all the money around in a real estate transaction, and that fee is split directly in half. The seller pays half, the buyer pays half. It's typically $1,200 to $1,400, just depending on the escrow company and the amount of the purchase as well. The seller is also required to provide you an owner's title insurance policy. This is a very important insurance policy that protects you against any defects to the title. It could protect you possibly from an undisclosed encroachment, from a lien on the property, and a whole bunch of other surprises that could come up. And it's a very important thing to make sure you have. They're required to provide this in Washington State when they sell a property, and it's a very important thing to have. So just make sure that you look out for that and make sure the seller has provided that home insurance policy for you. Last but not least, the seller is going to pay prorated dues and taxes up to when they sold you the home. So the escrow company will reconcile to the day the amount of days that this person, the seller, owned the home versus when you own the house. They may have prepaid an entire half year in taxes as an example, and you actually own the home for some of that period of time. So you'd owe them back a credit for the amount of days that you own the property. So that's called proration in real estate, and the escrow company will prorate those taxes to the days that you actually own the home. You'll see that on your settlement statement at closing. So that's what the seller pays. On the buyer side, the buyer pays mostly lender fees. So loan origination fees, credit reporting fees, prepaid interest, prepaid taxes. It's almost all lender fees, guys. So talk to your lender direct about that and ask them exactly what to expect. You're also going to pay the recording fee, which is just a fee charged by the escrow company to record you as the owner of the home at the courthouse, which is really important. It's a few $100s. Like I said, half of the escrow fee, so typically $1,200 to $1,400, comes out to 1/2 of the escrow fee, and which is how much you pay on the buy side. And then also a lender's title insurance policy. Your lender's going to require that you have this insurance policy for their benefit, and the escrow company will take care of that for you as well. And you'll see the charge for that on your settlement statement. I mentioned prorated dues and taxes, so you'll pay your share of that on your side as a buyer. I always tell my clients budget 1.5% to 2% for their closing costs. The number can vary widely depending on which lender you use, which loan program you're going to be planning to use as well. And then also just what your financial profile looks like. How good is your credit? How big is your down payment? All these other things go into closing cost variables. But ask your lender for a very specific quote and then share that number with me as your agent so I know exactly what you're planning to pay for that. And sometimes I can get the seller to actually pay for all of your closing costs, and that can oftentimes be a bigger deal than getting dollars off the house. I'll give you an example of that. If you got $10,000 off the price of a home, that's only going to save you about $70 a month. But if the seller gave you a $10,000 credit for closing costs, that would keep $10,000 in your bank account. Which one would you rather have? Both are options, but which one's more important to you? Oftentimes for my clients, they'd rather have the closing cost credit versus dollars off and hold on to their cash. So just share with me which one's most important to you, and then make sure you understand at a very granular level from your lender exactly what to expect on closing costs. I hope that helps. If you've got more questions about closing costs, definitely reach out to me.